Hi, this is Tom Spiegel with the Parents at Work podcast. Just a brief note about this episode. Unfortunately, we learned after recording it that my microphone was not working correctly. As a result, the audio on my end is not as clear as it could be, though you can hear me. So I apologize for the quality of the audio on my end. Fortunately, the most important part, Ari's microphone was working just fine, so you can hear what he says clearly. So put up with my poor audio, and you'll get some great information from Ari and his.
Welcome to the Parents at Work podcast, a podcast for the modern parent working in the modern world. Join us as we interview leading experts in their fields to unveil the secrets working parents need to succeed at work.
Welcome to the Parents at Work podcast, the podcast for parents who still want to excel at work even though they've got small children or children at all. This is sponsored by the Spiegel Law Firm, where we represent folks who have been fired or afraid they might be. We have a soft spot in our hearts for those suffering from pregnancy or other types of family responsibilities discrimination. And today, I am thrilled to have with us Ari Meisel, it's going to be difficult to introduce Ari because you do so much. But I first heard of you from your book, The Art of Less Doing, One Entrepreneur's Formula for a Beautiful Life. And then I am also a client of a business that you started called Get Leverage, which connects people with a host of different, contractors and folks that can do pretty much anything. So I've had you guys help me find speakers. You guys have helped me design PDFs, a number of different sorts of things. So that's how I know you, Ari. But I will kick it over to you and let you tell folks what you do and what you're up to now.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the productivity space for probably about a decade now. And I created a system of productivity called Less Doing, which was set up to help people optimize, automate, and outsource everything in their lives in order to be more effective. And then I was teaching and consulting and speaking around the world on that topic. And about 2 years ago, I co-founded a company called Leverage, as you mentioned, with a partner at the time, and we grew the company very, very quickly from literally nothing. We didn't put a single penny into it to a team of 200 people in 17 time zones doing over 1,000 hours of work every week for over 500 clients. And then about 3 weeks ago, I stepped away from that company and got back to focusing on Less Doing. So basically helped to grow that company really rapidly and set it up on a good path. And then got back to focusing on what I really love, which is working with people and helping businesses and individuals really take things to the next level and be more effective. And at the end of the day, reclaim their time.
Well, that's fantastic. And where can folks find you? I assume you have a website and all that good stuff.
Yes, so lessdoing.com is where everything is about me and the blog, and I have a podcast as well called the Less Doing Podcast, and written books, and have various services. We have a membership site, we have a mastermind program, coaching program, so it's all there. Yeah, and you have a number of good YouTube videos that I've seen too, and we'll put all that in the show notes. Well, listen, I think you will be a big help to a lot of folks who are listening to the podcast. As you probably know, one of the reasons that I started the podcast was my own experience with trying to have a law practice and later my own law firm while having now 4 kids. Probably trying to do, no question I was trying to do too much myself and really burning the candle at both ends with probably predictable consequences to my health and otherwise. So that's really, I started the podcast not because I have answers to that, because it's, I think we've reached sort of an unfortunate zeitgeist where a lot of people are experiencing that, the pressures of having, the expectations of what we can do and should do for our children, providing not only for their physical, but for their mental health, with, in many respects, at least a lot fewer traditional resources in terms of not only time, but family network. So you have a lot of parents trying to do it on their own. I know you have children. What can you tell us? I mean, do you use any of the lessons that you've learned, from Less Doing in your family life? And if so, how? Yeah, of course. Well, so first of all, I have 4 children as well. So I have a 5-year-old twin 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old girl. So the first three are boys. And first of all, it helps to become real clear on like what you want to do and what you're doing things for. And I spend a lot of time with my kids. I'm very, very involved, and I take them to school every morning. I pick them up from school every day, and then I'm usually working while they're at school. And one thing is that I'm very big on compartmentalization. I don't believe in a work-life balance. I think it's more of a work-life integration. And we all have sort of personas that we take when we're working in different modes. And being able to switch very quickly between those and making that very clear cut, I think, is very important. So when I'm working from basically 9 to 3 while they're at school, like it's pretty intense, back-to-back meetings, nonstop. And then when I pick them up, like off the phone, I'm not working for the next 5 or 6 hours. Sometimes where then might be able to check in on it again. But being able to really, it's not about being present to me, because I certainly get lots of great business ideas while I'm playing with my kids. But just having that separation where like I know sort of what mode I'm in, which is something I always find very important. But then we do a lot of automation stuff in our home and outsourcing as much as we can. But one of the biggest things for me is idea capture. So I'm obsessive about idea capture and being able to get ideas out of my head as quickly as possible, because I recognize that there is a different time for you to come up with ideas and a very different than there is for you to process those ideas. It's a very, very important distinction. And as an entrepreneur or as just a human being, we get ideas all the time. And a lot of people run into the problem where they try to hold on to ideas for too long, or they try to work on them right away, and then they end up getting lost. So having some way of having idea capture wherever you are and whatever you're doing is hugely important. And that could be something low tech, like having Post-it notepads around your house, or in our case, we have the Amazon Alexa in 2 places in our house. So if I'm changing a diaper, I can still say, Alexa, remind me to do this, or make a Trello card for this. And it's very freeing, and it allows me to very quickly go back to doing whatever I need to be doing without having to deal with the sort of new idea at the time.
You mentioned Trello. Not everybody may be familiar with that. What's Trello?
So Trello is a free project management tool that, in my opinion, is the best one out there, and it's the most flexible. It allows you to manage projects, tasks. You can even use it to organize your DVD collection if you wanted to. So it's really important. I use it for business stuff, for personal stuff. Our honey-do list is on Trello. I mean, it's a great system, and you can automate things in and out of it as well.
And you can obviously, it sounds like you connect it with Alexa, so you can give it verbal.
Exactly.
Command. So I'd like to talk more about personal automation that you do. Things that most families struggle with, grocery shopping, getting food on the table, basic, you mentioned honey-do list, basic chores around the house, whether it's changing a light bulb or getting your lawn taken care of. How do you handle those tasks, and what kind of automation tips do you have, if any?
So there's a couple different approaches here. So one, we actually do a lot of that kind of stuff ourselves. And I actually do think that there's certain value in doing some of those more manual things yourself in certain situations. So, for example, like we don't have a housekeeper, and it's not because we wouldn't like to. It's mostly because with 4 kids, if we paid a housekeeper to come in about 7 seconds after he or she left, the house would be a mess again, and it would be very frustrating.
Right.
So it's funny, actually, sort of a tangent, but the best example I can give of that is I used to work, one summer I worked for Estee Lauder, and Ron Lauder, who's a well-known philanthropist and very wealthy, was traveling a lot, and he was using private jet service. And he has the wealth. So I was with just happened to be with his assistant one day, and she was booking a NetJet plane for him. And for those who don't know, NetJet is a fractional ownership. So you pay several $100,000, and you get access to 20 hours or 40 hours in a private plane. And I asked her, I was like, I didn't understand why he didn't own his own plane. It seemed like a naive question, I guess. But she was like, well, it's because he flies so much that one crew in one plane couldn't keep up with it. And he could be in 3 countries in one day. So that was very interesting to me. It's like you use something so much that you actually need to have multiple providers giving you service. And that's kind of how I feel with some of these things that we do. So with 4 kids, a dog, 2 cats, me and my wife, like we would need 2 full-time maids living with us to basically make use of a maid service. So we don't have that.
You got me beat by 2 cats. I've got the 4 kids and the dog and the wife, but not the 2 cats. I mean,
So, and then also there's all sorts of funny research studies about how like washing dishes is the gateway to mindfulness meditation and stuff. So we end up doing a lot of those things ourselves, but having routines in place, having a process in place with those kind of things, it certainly helps. Grocery delivery though is a big one. So we live in New York, so we fortunately have access to all sorts of great services, one of which is Amazon Fresh. And Amazon Fresh has you can get a physical device where you can either do a voice recording or scan a barcode of something that you need. So as soon as the milk runs out, you scan the barcode and throw it out. As soon as like you run out of apples, you just say like, green apples, and it adds it to your list. And then you can have an automation so that a virtual assistant every 3 days goes in and completes the order that's in the cart, and then your groceries just show up. So there's all sorts of ways, but the whole less doing framework is to optimize, automate, and outsource. And that means you look at the process first, look at how you're doing things, then you look at how you can automate, and then at that step you look at outsourcing. But that optimization is really important. Everything we do from at home, from laundry to how we get kids to and from activities in school, to clothing, to Halloween costume preparation, which is what we're in the midst of right now. There's a process to it, and it becomes a lot less overwhelming if you actually stop and identify what some of those steps are.
That's fascinating, because I'm also in the midst of Halloween, mostly my wife, Halloween costume preparation, and we very much don't have a process. Give us a sense, how do you do that? Like, do you do, like, let's take the Halloween costumes. Do you do it low tech? Do you do it with Trello? Like, do you and your wife sit down and have weekly meetings to come up with these processes? What's your process for coming up with processes?
So anything that happens more than once is pretty much an opportunity to be looking at how we might be able to optimize the process. So we look at things that are repetitive. That's the easiest sort of low-hanging fruit. And then the next one is just things that like clearly are taking your time, like a lot of time, and that at the end of the day, some of the best ones, I feel like this as a parent, some of the best places to figure out where you need to look at processes are the things that you forget to do and you kind of remember right before you went to bed. Meaning like, I forgot to put the dog out. Like, oh gosh, I forgot to make the kids snacks for tomorrow. I didn't put the dishes away. I didn't put the food away from dinner or something like that. All of those things, it sounds really simple, but I actually have a checklist written out for what I need to do at the end of the night, because nothing else, it makes your marriage better, sure. And I'm a big believer that control is the antidote to stress. And when you identify these issues, a lot of that is really, it's giving yourself some semblance of control over the situation. So I find that to be really, really important.
And so for things like, I'm just curious about, how people do this. Do you, for your checklist, let's say, do you have like a printout? Like, do you put it on your bathroom mirror? Like, what is your...
So I actually do have that in Trello, believe it or not. So in Trello, you can make a card, and on that card, you can actually create a checklist. And then I have Trello has an auto repeater function, so I can actually have it show up. I think I have it show up at like 9 o'clock every night or something. And then so I can go through it and actually check it off, which is really satisfying. And I know that sounds like overkill to people, but again, it's very satisfying. You know that nothing was missed, and you don't have to like think about it. And then what you then start to learn is once you write out like the 8 things that you need to do before you go to bed, then you can start playing around with the order. And then you can start actually optimizing it. Be like, oh, well, maybe it makes more sense if I, do the dishes, and then I do that. Like, there's ways to then start hacking it. And then you can look at ways to automate things. And there may be, like if you have to, I'm not thinking of a good example, but like if you need, like for our case, like I have to make snacks for the kids every night. And so and with 3 boys, you go through things pretty quickly. Like Costco is barely enough for us. So you can start to automate some of those things, meaning like, you know that you go through this, like the pretzel sticks, like every, week or so. So just have that start to show up. So if you see like, I have to do the kids' snacks, and then if you want to be even more helpful, you can say, like, here's 7 different options that you might use to do the kids' snacks, and write those on the Trello card, and then you can start to figure that, okay, well, this is one item that I always want to have on hand, and then you decide that, okay, I'm going to have that automatically delivered. So it all sort of, like, branches off of that, and it becomes really kind of fun, honestly, and then, again, you're controlling.
Right. And then what kind of, I see you mentioned that you do a lot of, your home tasks yourself for all the reasons you lay out. But what kind of things do you, the shopping you mentioned, what, do you outsource things for your home life? Or is that more?
We do a lot of automation. We do have a dog walker, because that's one thing that there just never seems to be enough time of the day. And it's like you almost start to feel like bad that the dog go out. So we have a dog walker, and we have occasional people who can help us with the kids. There's a 14-year-old girl that lives in our building who's like one of the best babysitters we've ever had. But so it's kind of like more of an ad hoc basis of things. But when I have big things going on, like big projects that are physical projects, like when we moved, which we've done a few times actually in the last couple of years, or if we're having a party or something like that, then I'll bring in someone from like TaskRabbit. At one time I had 9 people from TaskRabbit for one thing helping us at the same time. So on-demand labor is the key.
TaskRabbit is kind of out of curiosity. What kind of dog?
Boston Terrier.
Oh yeah, there's probably plenty of energy.
Yeah, well, see, and there's another thing. So, like, my Boston Terrier has pituitary gland thing, an illness, so he takes a pill every day. So, like, that medicine is on auto ship now. So like it's just always there, and so is their food. We go through quite a bit of dog food and cat food.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So do you have that delivered?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you use Amazon Fresh to do that, or do you use like Petco or another service?
I think it's Chewy.com is what we use.
Okay. All right. No, we got a dog about 6 months ago, and he has grown bigger than we expected and eats quite a bit. So I'm just curious about what kind of pet delivery services there are, because we could use as a bag of dog food get heavy to lug around after a while. Well, listen, one thing that, I certainly know your story, but some of the people listening may not. Tell us how you came to this, how you came to outsourcing and automating, and what in your life process?
So, yeah, basically in 2006, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is a chronic inflammatory condition that affects the digestive tract, and I was severely debilitated by it and got to a situation where I was very limited in the amount of work I could possibly get done in a given day. So after a really low point in the hospital, I started this journey of self-tracking and self-experimentation, and I was able to overcome the illness and get off my meds. And a big part of that was developing this system of productivity, less doing, because I recognized that stress was a large part of what was going on with my body. And in order to deal with the stress aspect, I needed to come up with a systematic way of mitigating and controlling that stress, which is really the genesis of less doing.
Got it. And let me ask you, you talked kind of the things that you do within your household. And I know your kids are a little young for this, but are you teaching them any similar skills? Are they a part of this process?
No, they're a little young. People have asked me that before. I don't, it's funny. You see different personalities in your kids so early, and I don't know. I have a feeling that one of them is going to be the mindset to want to do that kind of stuff, but I'm not sure about the others. So I don't get them in that mindset. I mean, we do, to me, like self-awareness is a really big part of this. So teaching them that as much as we can, but again, they are very young. I remind myself every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got a little ways. There's I don't know if you've seen it. Some of the similar ideas that you were talking about apply to family life. The Secrets of Happy Families.
No, I haven't.
You've seen that book? It's a great book. It's the Secrets of Happy Families. I wish I could remember the author's name. New York Times bestseller. I think he may write for the Times. He's a reporter. But, basically the book was he has, 2 young kids, and, he and his wife work, and he's like, I want to know how people do this. Is there a better way to run a household? And he interviewed a bunch of different, not therapists, but like just different, financial advisors, business people, to kind of get a sense of, is there a better way to do this? And one of the things which was fascinating was, there's some method that they use in software development. It's a particular kind of planning that's got a name. But anyway, there's this guy who wrote a white paper, wrote a white paper about how he used this with his family. And Agile, I think is the name of the method. And as I understand the Agile method is that, for years in the software development, way back when it was, we didn't have software service and all that, but it was top down, like people would, the software development companies like, this is the idea and we want you guys to execute it. And it wouldn't work so well. And eventually somebody came up with an Agile management where a lot of the details were delegated down to smaller pods or teams within the company. And they had a method for brainstorming ideas and problem solving. And this guy applied it to his family. Again, his children are older. But the idea essentially was, to your point about the checklist, like we would sit down and have family meetings and talk about, what was not getting done and allow the kids to participate about, what kind of solutions there should be. And then the other piece of it was just having a simple checklist, like every morning, these are the things that, you have to do before you go out the door, and then training the kids to do it. We tried it to varying degrees of success in my own household, but he tells a story that just made me swoon. This woman just sitting there drinking her coffee while her kids, just went and checked the checklist about unloading the dishwasher, packing their lunches, getting things together, because otherwise you just find yourselves like having to, harangue your kids to get these sort of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of that is, a part of it is so much of it is just patience.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, patience and being, to what you were talking about, being mindful about what steps you were taking over and over each day and trying to form a habit with that. Well, tell us about what you're working on now. What are you excited about?
Less doing. I mean, I'm super excited about what I'm working on now. I have a very, very small team of amazing people with me, and we are focusing on elevating my speaking work and my consulting, and then they're also helping with consulting as well. I really want to just produce content. That's my goal, what I want to be doing. So we're creating a sort of ecosphere around me and Less Doing to be able to do that as much as possible. Yeah, and also we have this membership site, the Less Doing Labs, which has about 800 members in it, and my goal is to double that by the end of the year. That's a big push right now. And
somebody would join that. What kind of person should join that?
Really anybody. I mean, we have students in there, we have retirees in there, and then we have founders of big companies and employees and the like, and single mothers and lawyers, real estate brokers, finance people, everybody, and it's all productivity all the time. So I'm just producing a ton of content for there. I just got off doing this thing called Process Hacker Live, where on a live webinar, I built out an actual automation process for people that can get them free press for their business while they're sleeping, which I thought was pretty cool, and using an artificial intelligence engine. So it's $47 a month, and people get in there and they can see over 100 hours of videos and interact with lots of people with similar problems to them and learn and be more effective.
Is that's the membership site, or that's something separate?
That's the membership site. That's the Less Doing Labs.
I see. So $47 a month, and then you get access to the videos, and you said they're I guess listservs or chat groups or...
Well, it's all in Slack, actually. It's all in Slack. So I do webinars. I answer people's questions. Other people interact in there and get recommendations and whatnot. It's been a really good community.
That's fascinating. I'm curious. Do you have any people who come with parenting issues? Or
yeah, there's actually a productive parents channel in the Less Doing Lab. So.
Oh, okay. Well, so that's right in our wheelhouse, and you deal with these sorts of issues that we're talking about here.
That's right.
That's fantastic. Is that also just a part of the basic membership, or is that separate?
That's all included in the basic membership.
Okay, well there you go. I'm gonna go look at it right after I get out this podcast. And are you personally involved in that? Or
I am very much personally involved in that. It's one of my main focuses.
Yeah. Wow. Do you see repeat issues come up there? Repeat issues, like themes, like people, people experiencing the same sorts of problems, same pain points.
Yeah, a lot of times. I mean, there's so much psychology that I see going into people's ability to be more or less productive or effective, and so the issues. I mean, parenting issues have its own sort of nuances, but they're all very similar. There's control issues or trust issues or insecurity and value issues, and they all sort of play out in different ways in terms of our ability to focus or get things done and stay motivated.
I see. And then these folks would be on a separate Slack channel to be able to speak with each other?
Yes.
Yeah, Slack's an amazing tool. We use it within the firm. I could see how that would be very, very useful. Anything else that, like key things in terms of how you run your own household or what you're doing in that channel that you think will be useful for folks to know?
I do think that having a virtual assistant service at your disposal is a really good tool for people. The problem with outsourcing in general is that a lot of people tend to outsource first, and that's why most of them have bad experiences, because they give an inefficient problem to somebody else to do, and that doesn't make it more efficient. But if you have it at your disposal, it's really nice to be able to offload a bunch of stuff at the end of the night, like before you're going to bed, or just shoot off some ideas and know that somebody else is going to be working on it. So, and it doesn't matter which service you end up using, but I think that getting in that habit of, like, even if it's simple things like a doctor's appointment, just like taking one thing off your plate that you just don't have to think about, I think is really important.
Right. So like leverage would be what kind of service you could use where you just, that's what you would enter. Like somebody make a doctor's appointment for me tomorrow. Yeah. It is amazing how much those little things do drain you. And if you can have somebody to handle those, appointment making is a perfect one to do the phone work for you. That's fantastic to get that off your plate. For the parents that you see joining your group, I guess you all ages of kids, or is it mostly skewed to young kids?
No, all over the map. All over the map. I mean, we have somebody in there with 9 kids, aged 27 to 4. So,
wow. What kind of issues, one of the things that we're dealing with now their kids are getting a little older, for, getting them to various different events, that alone could be a full-time job. You see folks coming with creative solutions. Like I think Uber, one of the services was coming out with basically a shuttle service for older kids. You deal with those sorts of issues?
Yeah, of course. And I forgot what it's called actually, but there's a couple of things that do that. There's carpooling, like nanny solutions now too. That's a big one. Yeah, moving kids around is always like something that comes up a lot. Most efficient routing. I mean, it's funny actually. There are like companies like UPS, and FedEx and Uber use very, very sophisticated systems for route optimization. Like it's a very big thing. Like in the case of UPS, making like one less turn for all their trucks could mean, they save 1 million gallons of fuel every year. But there's actually several free web services that allow you to do very similar levels of route optimization. And depending on how many activities are involved in, it's actually something worth looking at.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware of that. I would say that would make a big difference. What about, one of the things I was talking about with another guest the other day was, obviously childcare is always an issue, but particularly if you are, working a variable schedule, but particularly if you need part-time, childcare. I mean, obviously you can do the old school method, which is of course fine, find somebody in the neighborhood, or a college student, care.com is good for that. To help you find, just the after-school kind of care. Any other thoughts on that, or any other solutions you see people come up with?
I think daycare programs are so much better than nannies. Honestly, they're way more flexible. They're a lot cheaper. They get the social interaction. They get, you get a couple months of a kid who's sick with every possible cold virus there is, and then they're like immune forever. We've always found daycare to be such a better solution for us and for our kids. I'm a huge fan of that. To me, a nanny, there's certain situations where a nanny is going to make a lot more sense, but in some ways it becomes like a proxy for you, right? So unless you're doing it so that you can get work done at home while somebody's watching your kid, or if you don't have access to some sort of daycare program, then that's one thing. But for us personally, the daycare option has always been great. Yeah,
I guess that's right, because it does give you a lot of flexibility, and you can, use it as you need.
Yeah.
Well, listen, this has been great. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Anything else we haven't talked about you think would be good for our listeners, or anything else about you or where they can find you that you think folks should know?
Well, as you asked before, if they go to lesdoing.com, they can sign up for my newsletter there and get the first 2 chapters of the Art of Less Doing book for free right away. So I think that's a cool way to sort of get started with things. And I'd love for people to check out the Less Doing Labs, which they can find on lesdoing.com.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that. I wasn't aware there was a parenting channel, and it's a fabulous book. I would highly recommend it to anybody who's interested, who is doing too much, who are probably, you talk to any parent, that's probably any parent you can think of. Well, Ari, I really appreciate you coming on the show and wish you the best of luck, and good luck with the kiddos.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Parents at Work podcast. Are you interested in learning more about our show, our hosts, or today's guest? Do you have a comment or question you'd like to share with the Parents at Work community? Then contact us at www.spigellaw.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.